In the world of Dragon Ball, there is no shortage of absolute sociopaths that don't give a about anything but throwing hands and trying to catch a fate from Goku. From the ultimate life form known as Cell, who would rather blow himself up and take the earth with him than take an L to a child, to the time-skipping assassin Hit, who literally uses a lag switch while fighting in real life, and the evil galactic overlord Frieza, who one-tapped Goku and Vegeta in their strongest forms after training for 10 years straight for almost no reason. He just wanted to beat Goku's ass that badly. And although these characters are formidable in their own right, it is hard to think of anyone more menacing and more impactful than the two universal threats that the Z fighters had to face off against in the OG Dragon Ball Z run. One of them being the magical bubblegum alien Majin Buu, and the other being the Legendary Super Saiyan, Broly, from the original Z movies. You would be surprised to see how much alternate media compares Broly to the Buu Saga era events of the series, such as the video games throwing Broly as an optional encounter you face before fighting Majin Buu, rather than before Cell, or even him facing Super Gogeta in cutscenes, which I wouldn't be surprised if it inspired the current Broly of Gogeta of today. But which of these two is actually the strongest? If you know anything about Dragon Ball Z and how the power progression goes, you may expect Majin Buu to sweep pretty easily here, no? After all, he did fight Super Saiyan 3 Goku, who shook the earth, and whose massive ki levels could be felt in another dimension being the Kaioshin realm. He also fought Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, who could open up dimensions with his powerful ki shouts, and of course, to giving the ultimate fusion, Super Vegito, some difficulties for a bit when enraged. While Broly, on the other hand, only fought multiple Super Saiyans prior to the Buu Saga. However, when we're analyzing things closer like feats and statements, the debate certainly becomes more difficult to decipher, especially when you take into consideration that the movies and main continuity have two different events of scaling and even stories that happen. Take for instance in movie 10, Broly is actually facing a 7-year trained Gohan, rather than the usual 7-year rusty Gohan in the actual Buu Saga that we got. Even then, Toriyama stated that the movies take place in another dimension, so when you say, well, Broly takes place before the Buu Saga, it doesn't actually apply logically as it is a different universe with different events and powers than the main one. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see who would win between these two absolute units. First off, we're gonna analyze the battle going from pure feats. For starters, Broly, while in his restrained Super Saiyan state, i.e. in a heavily nerfed state, he was able to wipe out massive portions of the South Galaxy, which is not a singular galaxy, but an immensely large galaxy cluster, which is likely infinite in magnitude, given that the living universe is infinite and has infinite galaxies, which are themselves full of innumerable nebulas or solar systems, as revealed in the Daizenshu 4, World Guide, and the Chozenshu 4, which are officially licensed guidebooks. So, if there are innumerable galaxies and nebulas, and so forth, then Broly destroying 1/4 of this has some serious connotations that cannot really be ignored. On top of that, it is stated numerous times that if Broly were left alive, he would be able to wipe out everything in the living universe. Even if you absurdly lowball this and say that it'll be over his entire lifetime, which is not implied, you're looking at bare minimum multi-solar system to multi-galactic levels of power right off the bat. And that is not to mention that he not only survived his first encounter with the Z fighters, but became far stronger in the second coming to the point that Super Saiyan Goku had to step into the fray alongside his sons to defeat him. And even then, he had an even more dreadful level of power in his Bio Broly incarnation. I'll touch up more on this later, but although it is hard to believe, yeah, the Broly that we saw in the Bio Broly movie within the test tube is outright the strongest version of Broly that we ever saw in Z, as it is inferred by a guidebook and a DVD box that Bio Broly is indeed more powerful than in movie 10 Broly, but was unfortunately nerfed in his showing due to being c***ed on, which slowed down his movements and made him weak to seawater. It would be quite illogical to scale movie 10 Broly above movie 11 Broly, being that Bio Broly is literally Broly but highly enhanced into a Bio Warrior, with said Bio Warriors being strong enough to take multiple hits from Android 18, Goten, and Trunks. Now, I'm not scaling these Bio Warriors to these characters to their full extent, but it is worthy to mention that they were clearly durable enough to not get totally on. And I don't know about you guys, but I doubt characters like Recoome or Raditz would be able to tank as many hits as these guys did, considering that base Goku in the Namek Saga was able to 1 or 2 tap characters like Burter and Recoome, and Android 18, Goten, and Trunks should be around as strong, if not stronger, than the Afterlife Saga Goku, who 1-tapped the Ginyu Force in base as well. So, if an average human has a power level of 5, and assuming that these guys are at least Raditz level as a low ball, they would still be getting hundreds of times stronger than before, so a decent multiplier can be applied to Bio Broly through this mindset. I just want to make it clear that despite the lower intellect, lesser combat experience, and lesser speed compared to movie 10 Broly, Bio Broly should still be far more powerful, logically speaking. Long story short, Broly's whole gimmick in Z is having insane genes and latent potential. Being born with a power level of 10,000, and pretty much being a natural Super Saiyan, Bio Broly is that Broly's insane genes and latent potential, but amplified with scientific research and study. Regardless, it is clear as day that Broly should scale up to multi-galactic levels of power. But now, what do we have for the Boos? Going off the manga, there's not much to Boo's power apart from being stated as wiping out hundreds of planets in a few years, which Broly, while restrained, was able to do that, and in a larger magnitude at that. There's also a statement saying that Kid Buu was powerful enough to wipe out the universe in a poof, which if taken literally could be used to argue that manga Majin Buu is an universe buster. But I think it just more so means that he would be able to wipe out the universe over time, and El Manga Legendario, an officially licensed guidebook, also infers that Majin Buu is powerful enough to destroy the universe. But once again, going purely off feats, the Boos and even Buuhan don't have galactic level feats, much less multi-galactic level feats. But what about the anime? Now this is where things get more spicy, as there are 3 amazing showings and implied feats that showcase just how overpowered Majin Buu really was. First off, Kid Buu, while he was looking for more ops to run down on, was stated as planning to destroy the Grand Kai's planet, which is an infinitely large planet. Given that Heaven is stated in guidebooks and in the anime to being as wide as the infinite living universe, and the Grand Kai's planet is a decent fraction of its size, it is at least a multi-galactic level feat, if not higher, depending on if you want to argue that Kid Buu could wipe it out in one shot. However, even if we downplay and say that he can at least fracture the planet, that'd still be a multi-galactic level feat. Another cool feat is when Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Kid Buu were trading blows, and it was stated by the Kaioshin that their intense battle was causing damage to the Kaioshin realm. Now this feat is impressive given that the Kaioshin realm is 1/10 the size of the macrocosm, but it wouldn't be fair to scale Kid Buu to being able to wipe out the whole realm in one shot because there is no indication of that. Depending on how intense you think Kid Buu's damage would be, you can argue for it being another galactic, possibly even an universe level feat given the size of the realm. And finally, the best feat in the anime likely belongs to Super Buuhan, who while in a pissed off state, pushed Super Vegito to try a good amount to break through his barrier that was supposed to shield him while he performed the Vice Shout, which is confirmed by guidebooks and the anime including Kai as being able to wipe out the universe through a chain reaction by collapsing surrounding dimensions. This feat is at least multi-galactic, but can easily be argued to be an universal plus, given that Buu hit Vegeta with that level of power, inferring that he had that much potency in his attacks. So if we go by feats from the anime, I believe Broly can handle Fat Buu and Kid Buu, but would have trouble against Super Buuhan with his Rage Boost. Now, I've already done a video discussing who's the strongest Buu incarnation, Buuhan, but for those that consider the multitude of anime statements saying that Kid Buu is the strongest Buu as credible, then I guess you can argue that if Broly cannot beat Buuhan, then by extension he could not beat Kid Buu if you think Kid Buu would be above even Enraged Buuhan. But hold up, alright. There's something that may change the argument though. If the Boos have superior attack potency and by extension durability, what about speed? Since Broly can wipe out the universe in a much shorter time frame than the seemingly immortal Buu, he can be argued as being much faster than Majin Buu. However, we have to take into account the speed that Broly would scale from if we scale him from other movie villains. Although it is unclear if movie 11, Bio Broly, and movie 12, Fusion Reborn, are connected, we know movie 8 and 10 are released in this iteration, given that we see a scene from movie 8 in the after credits, and of course we see Paragus in the scene where all the villains come back, alongside lots of other characters, including Cooler Squadron, which is very important because if you know anything about Cooler, you may know that Cooler is one of the fastest, if not arguably the fastest movie villain, due to his feat of moving faster than an instant and being able to track Goku through his instant transmission. This is something I missed in my movie villains video and it may actually change my scaling for Metacooler in the long run, but it is stated in the TV anime guide, Dragon Ball Z Son Goku Densetsu, that Metacooler and Goku were fighting in a space beyond time. So if you want to take this statement literally, it would imply that Metacooler and Movie 6 Goku, who were leagues upon leagues below Movie 8 Broly power-wise, are fighting at immeasurable levels of speed or are showcasing speed that completely transcends time. Further evidence that Broly would scale to this even if the movies aren't connected is Koyama saying that the intention of every villain until he made Broly was for the villains to be stronger than the last. So even if you think Koyama is like some turbo Broly fanboy and unreliable, it was clearly still the staff and the team's original intention for the movies 6 to 8 to be stronger in order. Then you could argue that Koyama became biased that Broly was stronger than, say, Janemba or Hirudegarn afterwards. So if Broly is stronger than movie 6 Goku, and they all use Ki to amplify their speed and power, then it is highly likely that Broly would also scale above Metacooler's speed. So, even if the Boos have superior attack power through the anime scaling, Broly would likely still speed blitz if you want to scale him from Metacooler, especially if you consider the movies have different speed to power translations than the main timeline. Otherwise though, I think the Boos would beat him with a good degree of difficulty. Then again, you could argue that even if Broly was faster, Boo certainly does have several attributes that could help him outlast Broly and pull out a win, such as having a larger stamina pool, magic, and regeneration. But now, what if we were to use simply statements? It is pretty simple actually. Broly would clearly win in this category because according to Takao Koyama, the screenwriter of the original 13 DBZ movies and for some Buu Saga episodes in the anime, has stated that including the TV anime, Broly was the strongest character, and to this day, the old man is still posting his support for Broly, saying that he pictured him as the strongest character, and that in his point of view, only Beerus surpassed him. This is further backed up by him having Broly showing up 3 times, because he ran into a problem where he couldn't picture a villain stronger than Broly. He does point out that he may be biased in his creation within an interview, which is certainly a good counterpoint. And Koyama does kind of contradict himself as he says that he viewed Buu and Broly as having comparable levels of power on Twitter. But if we take his primary statement at face value, it would infer that Broly would slap Buu. Alright, so this next source is more of a secondary or tertiary source, if it can really be called that, because in a French Dohote magazine, it is stated that Broly was so powerful that Vegeta would only come close to his power, that Broly was the strongest character in Z, and it's even stated that Broly would have a big chance of winning against Super Saiyan 4 Goku or Super Gogeta. There are some inconsistencies and questionable things in the magazines, such as it calling Vegito Gogeta, saying that Turles was Goku's brother, and ranking Krillin and Android 18 above Janemba, for instance. So these statements can be taken with a grain of salt, but I thought it would be interesting to bring it up because it does align with Takao Koyama's own take. In conclusion though, if we're using the manga scaling, then Broly washes the Boos. If we're using strictly anime feats, then Buuhan and Kid Buu have a great chance of winning, but it can be argued to be Broly's victory if you scale him off of Metacooler. And if we're going off of statements, then Broly would also stomp out in this category. So I think it is pretty clear as day to say that Broly would win overall, but I'm sure that there will be some Majin Buu diehards out there to disagree. Other than that, excuse my Broly wank, I hope you learned something and have a good one. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to Dr. Autism God, who helped support the video alongside many others. So thank you for the people who helped donate to have this video made as well. Peace out, and have a good one, thotties.